Let me start off the video by saying that some form of this deck will definitely be meta. In order for you guys to understand why, I've divided the video in 3 sections. Firstly, we have a card by card of the most important cards. The deck has so many cards that I had to skip over a few of them. If you already know what the cards do, then feel free to skip to the combo section. In the combo section, I'll give you a few combos that you can work into your list. And finally, I'll give you an example deck list that you can modify to your heart's desire. Let's get into the card by card. First of all, we have Alba as a level 4 Dark Dragon effect monster with 1800 attack and 0 defense. Its effect reads: if this card is normal or special summoned except during the damage step, you can discard one card. Fusion summon one fusion monster from the extra deck using monsters on either field as fusion material, including this card. But you cannot use other monsters you control as fusion material. You can only use this effect of Albaz once per turn. This card is basically bread and butter of your deck. Fusion summoning with this card is extremely easy. Not to mention that you can special summon it from the deck using the effect of Fusion Deployment or using the effect of Incredible Ecclesia the Virtuous. Speaking of Incredible Ecclesia, it's a level 4 light spellcaster tuner with 1500 attack and 1500 defense. Its effect reads: if your opponent controls more monsters than you do, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can special summon Incredible Ecclesia the Virtuous once per turn this way. You can use each of the following effects of Incredible Ecclesia the Virtuous once per turn. During the main phase quick effect, you can tribute this card, special summon one Sword Soul monster or one Albaz from your hand or deck. During the end phase, if a fusion monster was sent to the graveyard this turn, add this card from your graveyard to your hand. The fact that it's a light monster that can special summon Albas from the deck is very important in the deck. Also, most of the times your fusion monsters will be sent to the graveyard on every turn. This means that you will get the Ecclesia for free every time it's in the graveyard. Next up is Alba the Shrouded Dragon. It's a level 8 Dark Dragon monster with 2500 attack and 2000 defense. Its effect reads: this card's name becomes Fallen of Albaz while it's on the field or in the graveyard. If this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can send one Fallen of Albaz or one branded spell or trap cards from your hand or deck to the graveyard. Apply the following effect based on where you sent it from. Hand, special summon this card. Deck, place this card on the bottom of the deck. Then if you place this card from your hand, draw one card. You can only use this effect of Alba the Shrouded Dragon once per turn. I've seen some OCG lists run this card, and it's basically a free special summon or a free mulligan and graveyard setup, but I honestly don't recommend running more than one because I don't think it's that amazing. Moving on to the relevant Despia monsters, we have Despian Tragedy, a level 1 Dark Fairy with 400 attack and 400 defense. Its effect reads: if this card is sent to the graveyard or banished by a card effect, you can add one Despia monster from your deck to your hand except Despian Tragedy. You can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one branded spell or trap in your graveyard, set it to your field. You can only use one Despian Tragedy effect per turn and only once that turn. This card is incredibly easy to get into your graveyard by a card effect or even banish it. This means that you have easy access to your other Despia monsters. Also, you can recur it easily, so the second effect doesn't come up much. But the fact of the matter is you can use it in a pinch to get extra recursion, which is pretty amazing. Next up is the most common search target for Despian Tragedy. It's Alba the Jester of Despia, level 4 Dark Fairy effect monster with 1800 attack and 0 defense. Its effect reads: if this card is normal or special summoned, you can add one branded spell or trap from your deck to your hand. If a face-up fusion monster you control is destroyed by battle or leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect while this card is in your graveyard, you can target one effect monster your opponent controls. Special summon this card, and if you do, negate the targeted monster's effects until the end of this turn. You can only use one Alba Jester of Despia effect per turn and only once that turn. Not only is this card a searcher for one of your best cards in the deck, but it also allows you to have extra disruptions on your opponent's turn. Next up we have Dramaturge of Despia, a level 8 Dark Fairy effect monster with 3000 attack and 1500 defense. Its effect reads: if a fusion Synchro Xyz or Link monsters is special summoned except during the damage step, you can target one effect monster on the field, negate its effects until the end of the turn. If this card in your hand or field is used as fusion material and sent to the graveyard or banished, you can special summon this card. You can only use each effect of Dramaturge of Despia once per turn. This card should probably be a one-off, since you can easily search it off of Tragedy in case you already have a Alba in your hand, and also if it's used as a fusion material you can freely special summon it, giving you extra negations on your opponent's turn. Basically it's a win more card, but it's amazing in the deck nonetheless. Next let's talk about Springen's Kit, a level 4 Dark Beast effect monster with 1700 attack and 1000 defense. Its effect reads: if you have a fusion monster that lists Fallen of Albaz as material on your field or in your graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can add one of your branded spells or traps that is banished or in your deck or graveyard to your hand. Then place one card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. You can only use each effect of Springen's Kit once per turn. Keep in mind that if you special summon it with its own effects, you cannot search a card, but you can special summon it in other ways in order to search any of your branded spells or traps, or even recur them. Next up is Tri-Brigade Mercourier, a level 4 Dark Winged Beast effect monster with 800 attack and 0 defense. Its effect reads: when your opponent activates a monster effect while you control a fusion monster that lists Fallen of Albaz as material, quick effect. You can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard, negate that effect. If this card is banished, you can add one Fallen of Albaz or one monster that lists that card on its text from your deck to your hand, except Tri-Brigade Mercourier. You can use each effect of Tri-Brigade Mercourier once per turn. This is supposed to be extra interruptions in a win more strategy, but I don't think it's that amazing, to be honest. So without further ado, let's move on into the branded spells. First of all, we have the strongest fusion spells that we've seen in a long time. Branded Fusion is a normal spell that reads: fusion summon one fusion monster that lists Fallen of Albaz as material from your extra deck using two monsters from your hand, deck or field as fusion material. You can only activate one branded fusion per turn. You cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck the turn you activate this card except fusion monsters. This card is basically Shadow Fusion but on steroids. Later on in the combo section, I'll show you some combos that just include branded fusion and they are just so strong. Also, it's easily searchable by a Luber, which is searchable by Tragedy, so you'll always have access to it. Next up we have Branded Opening, a quick play spell which reads: discard one card, then take one Despia monster from your deck and either add it to your hand or special summon it in defense position. Also, for the rest of this turn after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except fusion monsters. If a fusion monster you control would be destroyed by a card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. You can only use each effect of Branded Opening once per turn. The discard on this card is not cost, so if you discard Tragedy you will still get the effect of Tragedy too, but you can easily access a Luber with this, which gets you your fusion spell. It does lock you into fusion summoning, but it doesn't matter because it's so amazing and you're basically only playing fusions in your extra deck anyways. Next up we have Branded in Red, a quick play spell card which reads: target one Despia monster or Fallen of Albaz in your graveyard, add it to your hand, then you can apply the following effect. Fusion summon one level 8 or higher fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials listed on it from your hand or field, but it cannot attack directly this turn. You can only activate one Branded in Red per turn. Because this card is a quick play spell, you can use it on your opponent's turn to go into some nasty disruptions. Keep in mind that you cannot special summon level 7s or lower, but level 8 or higher fusion pool has enough disruptions for you to keep you satisfied. Next up is Paradise Branded, a continuous spell which reads: the activation of your cards and effects that include an effect that fusion summons a fusion monster cannot be negated. Also, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects when a monster is fusion summoned this way. If you fusion summon a fusion monster except during the damage step, you can add one Fallen of Albaz or one monster that lists that card on its text from your deck to your hand. You can only use this effect of Paradise Branded once per turn. So this card is basically your magical meltdown, but it also adds a Fallen of Albaz when you fusion summon. It's also a branded card, so it's easily accessible to you, so one copy should be good enough. Before going over the extra deck monsters, let's talk about some engines that are good in this deck. First of all, you could include a very small Shadow engine that can be used to access your windows, and that can give you an extra floodgate during your opponent's turn if you choose to go first. Next up is the small Frightful Patchwork engine, which adds a polymerization and an Agim chain from the deck to your hand. This engine is very recurable as it gives you polymerization and a fusion material. Also, after using Agim chain, you can add another Patchwork from your deck to your hand to have as a follow-up. Next up is Goddess with the Third Eye. This card is a light monster which is basically incredible in this deck because you can replace her as a fusion material for many powerful fusion monsters. You will have to wait until the combo section in order to see the crazy combos that we have for you. Moving on to the extra deck, firstly we have Albion the Branded Dragon, a level 8 Dark Dragon fusion effect monster with 2500 attack and 2000 defense. Its fusion materials are Fallen of Albaz and one light monster, and its effect reads: if this card is fusion summoned, you can fusion summon one level 8 or lower fusion monster from your extra deck except Albion the Branded Dragon by banishing fusion materials listed on it from your hand, field and or graveyard. During the end phase, if this card is in your graveyard because it was sent there this turn, You can add to your hand or set one branded spell trap directly from your deck. You can only use each effect of Alba on the branded dragon once per turn. So not only is it a free extension, but it's also able to get you more advantage. It's probably a very good 2-off in the deck. Next up we have its counterpart, Lubellion the Searing Dragon, a level 8 light dragon fusion monster with 2500 attack and 3000 defense. Its fusion materials are 1 dark monster and 1 Fallen of Albaz. Its effect reads: if this card is fusion summoned, you can discard 1 card. Fusion summon 1 level 8 or lower fusion monster from your extra deck, except Lubellion the Searing Dragon, by shuffling fusion materials listed on it into the deck from among cards on the field and in your graveyard and or your face-up banished cards. But for the rest of the turn, this card cannot attack. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except fusion monsters. You can only use this effect of Lubellion the Searing Dragon once per turn. There is a combo in which you can both summon the Albion and the Lubellion with only 1 branded fusion. And then with the Lubellion you can get an extra card, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Next up we have Mirror Jade the Ice Blade Dragon, a level 8 dark worm effect monster with 3000 attack and 2500 defense. Its fusion materials are 1 Fallen of Albaz and 1 extra deck monster. Its effect reads: you can only control 1 Mirror Jade the Ice Blade Dragon. Once per turn, quick effect, you can send 1 fusion monster that lists Fallen of Albaz as material from your extra deck to your graveyard. Banish 1 monster on the field, but this effect cannot be used on the next turn. If this fusion summoned card in its owner's control leaves the field because of your opponent, you can activate this effect. Destroy all monsters your opponent controls during the end phase of this turn. This gives you a non-targeting banish, and it also sets up your hand for the follow-up, because you can send Fallen of Albaz fusions from your extra deck to the graveyard and then search the appropriate card in the end phase. Next up, let's talk about Despian fusions. First of all, we have Masquerade the Blazing Dragon. It's a level 8 Dark Fiend effect monster with 2500 attack and 2000 defense. Its fusion materials are 1 Despia monster and 1 light or dark monster. Its effect reads: while you control this fusion summoned card, your opponent must pay 600 life points to activate cards or effects. If your opponent controls a Ritual, Fusion, Synchro, Xyz or Link monster while this card is in your graveyard, quick effect. You can special summon this card but banish it when it leaves the field. You can only use this effect of Masquerade the Blazing Dragon once per turn. This is basically a Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon that has recursion from the graveyard, but it's probably pretty neat to have in the extra deck considering that you have so many Despias to fusion summon with. Next up is Despian Quertis, a level 8 Light Fiend fusion monster with 2500 attack and 2500 defense. Its fusion materials are 1 Despia monster and 1 light or dark monster. Its effect reads: during the main phase, quick effect, you can change the attack of all monsters currently on the field to 0 until the end of this turn, except level 8 or higher fusion monsters. If this face-up card in its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, you can add to your hand or special summon 1 Fallen of Albaz or 1 Despia monster from your deck. You can only use each effect of Despian Quertis once per turn. This is basically here to prevent OTKs and to easily fuse with your Despias. Probably your strongest Despian fusion monster is Despian Proscanion, a level 11 Light Fiend fusion monster with 3200 attack and 3200 defense. Its fusion materials are 1 Despia monster plus 1 light monster plus 1 dark monster. Its effect reads: during the main phase, quick effect, you can target 1 fusion, synchro, Xyz or link monster in your opponent's graveyard. Banish it or special summon it to your field. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can inflict damage to your opponent equal to that monster's original attack or defense, whichever is higher. You can only use each effect of Despian Proscanion once per turn. Provided that you can summon this card, it can set up a really easy OTK, but it does require 3 fusion materials, which isn't extremely hard to get into in this deck. Without further ado, let's get into the combos. Okay guys, this one card combo requires you only a Luber, and it is only an optimal combo if you have to spend your normal summon on a Luber to search your fusion spell. Let's say we drew just a Luber and 4 bricks for instance. So what we would do here is we would normal summon the Luber and add the branded fusion to our hand. From there on out we can activate the branded fusion, and with the branded fusion effect we can send Goddess with the third eye because it's a light monster and a Fallen of Albaz from our deck to the graveyard. With these 2 monsters we can summon Albion the Branded Dragon. We can use the effect of Albion the Branded Dragon on summon by banishing the Goddess with the third eye and the Fallen of Albaz, and here we have some choices to make. So first of all, what you could do is go into Invoked Caliga, because we can treat the Goddess with the third eye as Alistair the Invoker and the Fallen of Albaz is a dark monster. We can also summon Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. Be mindful that we are not using normal monsters here, so Red Eyes Dark Dark Dragoon would not get its pop effects, but it still cannot be destroyed by card effects. We are treating Goddess as a Dark Magician here, and our Fallen of Albaz is a dragon, so that's why we can make Dragoon with it. And also another alternative, if you want to extend your plays even more, would be Millenniumize Restrict. This is because we can treat the Goddess as relinquished, and we just need one more effect monster, which is our Fallen of Albaz. What Millenniumize Restrict can do is help you play around hand traps that are not specifically infinite impermanence, and if you have something else to extend, this is probably your best option, and if not, Kaliga and Red Eyes Dark Dragoon are pretty good options also. If you don't have to spend your normal summon on a Loober and you hard drew the Branded Fusion, then this is probably the best combo you can do. You only need the Branded Fusion and a discard fodder, so this can be literally any card, and the combo branches out quite a bit, so please be patient while I'll explain all of the lines to you. So first of all, we're gonna activate Branded Fusion. With it, we're gonna send Despian Tragedy and our Fallen of Albaz to the graveyard, and then we can go into our Lubellion. Here we can trigger Lubellion and our Tragedy, chailing 1 Tragedy so we can avoid Ash, chailing 2 Lubellion. Lubellion will discard the driver and it will shuffle the Albaz into the deck and shuffle itself into the deck in order to go into Iceblade Dragon. And then we can use the effect of Despian Tragedy, and with it we can add a Loober from the deck to our hand. So we're gonna normal summon the Loober here, and we're gonna add our copy of Branded in Red. From here on out is where the combo branches. You're gonna set your Branded in Red because it's a quick play spell, and then on our opponent's turn we can use the effect of Mirror Jade. Now what this does is we can send one monster from our extra deck to the graveyard that lists Fallen of Albaz to banish one monster on the field, and the fact of the matter is it doesn't target, so that's pretty insane. Now our targets to send would be either Titanic Lad, Sprint the Iron Dash Dragon if we are running Spriggans, and then we can send our Brigand the Glory Dragon. Either of these three can special summon Albaz from the deck if we want to in the end phase, so we can fuse with our opponent's monsters, but this is probably not the best idea in the world. But your target for the Springen would be Kit, and then if you summon Kit, you can add one of your branded spells or traps that is banished or in the deck or in the graveyard to our hand, so we can just use it to add the Branded Fusion, but that's probably not the best option. With our Bring in the Glory Dragon, we can add our Tri-Brigade, which is our Tri-Brigade Mercurier, but this is also probably not the best option in the world. But if you do not want to send these as targets, then you can just use it to send your Albion. Now what Albion would do in the end phase is set a branded spell trap directly from the deck, so we can gain access to any of the spells or traps that we might need for the next turn. So after we've used the effect of Mirror Jade, we can use effect of Branded in Red. This will pick up back the Tragedy in our graveyard, and then the combo branches yet again. Here we can use the effect of Branded in Red to fuse our Tragedy and the Loober, and then with these two we can go into either our Despian Queritis or Masquerade the Blazing Dragon. Now either of these two is pretty neat. Masquerade makes our opponents have to pay 600 each time they want to use card or effect, and Quarter will lower their attack to 0, so it can be used to prevent your opponent from OTKing you. However, there is yet another options that we can go into if we use all three of our monsters. We can go into Guardian Chimera. Now, the Guardian Chimera here, because we've used one card from our hand and two from the field, will allow us to draw one card and then destroy two cards on our opponent's side of the field. Also, because we've used Despian Tragedy as fusion material, we get to use its effect, and then we can search a Loober from our deck to our hand. So with this we get two pops, we get the search for a Loober, and we also get the end phase search from Albion. If you're finding this guide useful so far, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. It's literally free for you and it would mean so much to me. Without further ado, let me show you the hand loop. This combo is a bit gimmicky, but you get to hand loop your opponent for their entire hand and you get extra advantage while doing it, so I figured it would be cool to show it to you guys. So first of all, what you would do is you need to activate Branded Fusion and send your Albaz and Sky Scourge Norealis to the graveyard. Now, if you've never seen Sky Scourge Norealis, basically what it does is you can use its effect, pay 1000 life points, and send all cards on the field and in both players' hands to the graveyard, then you draw one card. So, with the Branded Fusion, we can either go into our Lubellion, or we can go into our Titanic Lad. Either of these two is fine, but if you go into Titanic Lad, and if you're running a Dogmatica engine, you could do something interesting with that, and if not, you can just use your standard Lubellion plays or whatever. So, Let's say we go into Titanic Lead in this instance, we can normal summon the Phantom of Chaos, then using the Phantom of Chaos, we can copy the Sky Scourge Norealis. From here on out we can use the effect of Phantom of Chaos, which is now the same as the effect of Sky Scourge Norealis, pay 1000 life points, and this is the entire hand loop for 6 for our opponent. And because the Sky Scourge Norealis is a broken card, we get to draw an extra card in addition to that. Now, the reason why I have these two cards here is because if you have any of them in your hand or in the field, you can use them to gain access to your Despian Tragedy. And if you send Despian Tragedy to the graveyard via card effect, and you can use Branded Opening to summon it from the deck, in the same chain basically as the chain that you use Phantom of Chaos, you can use the effect to add one Despia monster from your deck to your hand. Now, this can either be your Aluber, but keep in mind that we have already used our normal summon to normal summon the Phantom of Chaos, but if you drew Frightful Patchwork, as I did in this case, which is insanely lucky, you could be able to get extra advantage from something like the Dramaturge of Despia. Additionally, in the end phase, because we've used Titanic Lead in this example, we would be able to use the Titanic Lead effect in order to special summon Ecclesia, and then do the regular plays, the regular Dogmatica plays from there on out. If you are running a Shadow engine in your deck, you can also do this combo. We still need a Branded Fusion and a discard, so we can use the Branded Fusion. With its effect, we can send our Squamata and our Fallen of Albaz to the graveyard in order to go into our Lubellion. We can do Chilling 1 Squamata, Chilling 2 Lubellion. This is also to play around Dash, so we can discard the driver, we can shuffle back the Squamata and the Lubellion into the deck to go into our Winda, and then the Squamata will send, let's say, Wendy from our deck to the graveyard, but we can also trigger any Shadow effect here. And then let's say we use the effect of Winda, we can use it to set any Shadow from our deck to our field, but let's say you're just running one Squamata and one Winda, which is pretty much all you need for the engine. You can set the Squamata, and here we have a face-up Winda, we also have the Lubellion, and we have face-down Squamata that we can use as a man-eater bug. For this combo you will need Frightful Patchwork, Branded Fusion and a discard, and this is basically expanding 0 resources to create double interruptions. So let's say we start off with Patchwork. Using its effect we can grab a Polymerization and Edge Imp Chain from our deck to our hand. Next we can use the Branded Fusion. Now the materials here are actually important. We're gonna send of course our Fallen of Albaz, but we're also gonna send a Goddess with a third eye. From here we can go into our Albion the Branded Dragon, and then using the effect of Albion we can banish the Goddess and the Fallen of Albaz in order to go into our Lubellion. Now this is possible because we can treat the Goddess with the third eye as Fallen of Albaz in this case, and the Fallen of Albaz will be our dark monster, and so we can cheat out the Lubellion as well. Here we can use the effect of Lubellion, discard the driver, shuffling back our Albaz and itself into the deck, and with these we can go into our Iceblade Dragon. So this is already one of our interruptions, same as before, but here we can use the Polymerization in order to fuse Albion with the chain. And with these we can go into Predaplant Dracostapelia, so this is another negate, and then we can use the effect of Edge Imp Chain, which will add us another Frightful Patchwork to our hand. So we'll have Frightful Patchwork for the next turn, and also in the end phase we can use the effect of Albion, which will allow us to add another Branded Fusion from our deck to our hand. So we basically are in the same spot that we started off. We discarded one card, but we got Predaplant Dracostapelia and Mirror Jade on the field. So for this combo I wanted to show you a simple, short and sweet OTK. You need a Fallen of Albaz or anything that can get you to Fallen of Albaz and Interrupted Kaiju Slumber. So either Ecclesia or Fusion Deployment work, but let's say we just open up Fallen of Albaz. So what you're gonna do is first off activate the Kaiju Slumber, and now we give our opponent and ourselves Kaiju. It doesn't matter, it's just important that it's a big Kaiju, so let's say we give this one to our opponent. Next up we're gonna normal summon Fallen of Albaz, then using the effect of Albaz we're gonna fusion with their Jizukiru and our Fallen of Albaz. Now I cannot remove this minion from the board, but it's pretty much fine. We're gonna go into Albion, then using the effect of Albion we can banish this Jizukiru and our Fallen of Albaz, and then we can summon anything basically that's over 2200 attack points, I believe. So let's say we go into a Titanic lead. So these two are 5000 attack points and this one is 3300. So yep, pretty much the easiest OTK in the world. After watching an entire video dedicated to the deck, I don't think you need a card by card on any of these cards basically. The only interesting thing to talk about here would be, I guess, Nibiru, because it's a light target and it's one of the best hand traps. You can replace it for whatever you like, it's basically your flex spot. I would say triple gamma is mandatory because you want your branded fusion to resolve in order to get your combos, and you know, getting 2 extra bodies on the field to fusion summon with is pretty neat. As for the other engines that I did not include in this deck, I would have to say that the adventure package is pretty insane, but I'm not sure how it'll end up after the ban list, so I figured out I just exclude it from the deck list. But if you want to run the Brave package, you absolutely can, because it doesn't prevent you from fusion summoning, it doesn't lock you into anything, so you can do basically all of the adventure plays as well. Another interesting thing to talk about would be the DPE package. This is probably the deck that is influenced by the limiting of the Fusion Destiny the most, because you are not able to go into Verte Anaconda in most of your combo lines, so if you only have one Fusion Destiny, it wouldn't be as good to run the package in this deck. And this is just my opinion, you might disagree with it. But if Fusion Destiny stays at 2, you can also play this engine in the deck because it's pretty insane. If you enjoyed this video, may I suggest you watch the Crawler combo guide that I did. The boards that you can make in this deck are quite insane. I hope I'll see you there, bye!